Everything in your life right now is basically a reflection of how much comfort are you willing to sacrifice for your future self. If you're very fit, muscular, that's because you put in the work and went to the gym. If you're unhealthy and overweight, that's probably because you made some questionable food choices throughout the last couple of years. The same goes for your career. If you have a nice job that you love, you've probably spent a significant time working up to that job, either gaining experience in your field or getting a degree at university to be able to land that job. And if you have your own business, I'm sure it has taken you a lot of time and energy to get to the point where it's now successful. With your relationships, if you're now good with people, that may or may not have taken a lot of work, but at least you've put yourself out there, talked to people, met people, potentially gotten yourself a girlfriend or a wife, and all of this really compounds over time. Your discipline in all of this. When I look back at my life, I've had periods in my life where I've both sacrificed a lot and also been a bit too comfortable for my own liking. There's this concept that was flooding the internet, I think, a couple of years ago called delayed gratification. And this is something I also want to talk a bit about on my channel. It really does link to the message I've been preaching for the last couple of videos about overstimulation and how to basically escape that. In short, to understand delayed gratification, we need to understand, what does gratification actually mean? Gratification means pleasure, it's enjoyment, it's reward. But by delaying that gratification, that basically means that we're delaying pleasure now, so your future self gets something bigger later. They get to enjoy that reward, not your current self. And there's actually this famous psychology study that I want to highlight called the Marshmallow Experiment. The way it works is quite simple. You have kids that were placed in a room with a single marshmallow. Then the researcher told them, if you don't eat this marshmallow for 15 minutes, I'll come back and I'll give you another one. So the kids essentially had two options. Option number 1 is eat the marshmallow immediately. And option number 2 is wait 15 minutes and get 2 marshmallows instead of 1. So the test was super simple. Would the child sacrifice pleasure right now so the future self gets a bigger reward, or would they cash in at this point in time? And because most of the kids, they haven't yet developed the skill of discipline and delayed gratification, most kids, they ate the marshmallow immediately. Why? It's because human beings are wired for instant gratification. If something feels good right now, we want it. Think about how you consume content. I assure you, it's way easier to watch a newsfeed video than it is to sit in silence. And I actually made a content ladder for myself to kind of monitor where I am on the spectrum of overstimulation and my current mental state. Because if I feel addicted to watching a ton of short form content and constantly getting stimulated, I'm usually not in the best headspace. But if I listen to a lot of audiobooks and meditate a lot more and go a bit slower about my day, I'm a bit more reflective, that's usually an indication of me being in quite a good spot for that season of my life. The way I structure my day so I don't get sucked into instant gratification is I usually start with the hardest thing first in the morning. So that's when I will consume courses and things that really activates my brain in a healthy way. And then as I slowly progress the day, I will progress to listening to some podcasts, some audiobooks, and then like the faster dopamine, if I'd like, during the evening. If there's series I want to watch or some YouTube stuff that doesn't necessarily benefit my life in a positive way, I'll let myself indulge after 6 p.m. But that's been my rule for a while. Not specifically with YouTube, but with watching Netflix and series. I'll do that after 6 p.m. and then do the harder stuff earlier, because then I delay my gratification of getting like the big reward of watching Alice in Borderlands, for example. Anyway, what was also really interesting about this study is those researchers, they were following those kids for decades. And the kids who delayed gratification early on, they mostly ended up being more successful, they had better careers, they had healthier habits, they were less likely to develop destructive behaviors. While the kids who chose instant gratification, they struggled more. So let me put it to you this way. Your ability to sacrifice comfort today for the benefit of your future self literally determines the direction of your life. And I experienced this lesson very painfully myself. In my early to mid-20s, I was extremely focused on becoming better socially, on getting my master's degree, on at least starting my journey to build an online business. And I got my master's degree. I was told that I had now become a social butterfly. I was getting girls, and I had actually taken a course in building an online guitar coaching business. Then lockdown happened. Suddenly the world was closed, everything slowed down, and I told myself, Well, now we're all locked inside. It's fine. I have some time. My old buddies were getting back onto Call of Duty Warzone. So we bought the newest Call of Duty, got into Warzone for hours every single day. My day was flooded in cheap dopamine. And I just told myself the world was paused anyway. So it didn't really matter that much. I was choosing comfort. I was 24 at the time. So, well, I'm still young. I have the time. And man, time flew by so quickly. And I started looking for my first job after getting that master's degree. And it actually took me so long because I was very demotivated. I was run by cheap dopamine. I made almost zero progress with the online business. And it took me 21 months to get a job that I was overqualified for. So that means I was underpaid for that compared to what you would expect with a master's degree in chemistry. And here's what I want to emphasize. Comfort always has some kind of excuse. Back then, it's lockdown, and I'll start next month. I'll start when things open again. I will start when I feel motivated. But the truth is, every time you decide to indulge and choose comfort, you are stealing something that your future self could have had. At the end of 2025, I was reflecting on what I wanted from 2026, because honestly, time is just passing so fast. I'm now 30. I can feel I haven't let go of the online business path, and now I also have this YouTube channel that's been growing, and I have a small audience. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna commit to make this online business path work. That's gonna be my North Star for 2026. If that's the only goal I complete for 2026, to build a successful online business that gets clients and gets me income, then so be it. Because I did realize I abandoned something that I actually wanted, and the reason for that was comfort. I thought I failed back then because I just wasn't good enough. Because I actually tried and it didn't work. But honestly, I just wasn't putting in enough work. I was too comfortable. I was way too comfortable. As adults, we face the Marshmallow Experiment every single day. When we choose junk food instead of cooking food ourselves. When we start scrolling instead of just getting straight to work. When we indulge in too many video games instead of learning something that's also fun in just another way. That's comfort instead of growth. You don't have to be a growth machine all the time, but what really matters here is changing the trajectory from being 80% comfort and 20% growth to the opposite, to be 80% growth and 20% comfort. Because I'm gonna repeat myself, every single time you choose comfort, you trade some of your future for the present. And a really good example of this in my own life, how I flipped it around, is in 2023. Because I experienced the complete opposite of that in another area of my life, which was dating. For a long time, I struggled a bit with dating. I'm on the spectrum, so it does take me longer to learn social dynamics and it takes me more energy. Not that that's an excuse, but I think that's pretty factual. If I compare myself to my peers, how much time I put into trying to improve in this area. So I spent money on courses. I've done that since, 2018 or something like that. And I've watched a bunch of content, and I tried to push myself. I just couldn't. There's this wall I basically felt I ran into. In 2023, I decided I'm gonna go all in. I don't care what else happens. I will get a coach, and I will make this work. I was very dedicated, even though I had a full-time job. I started playing the numbers game. I pushed myself more than ever socially. I went on a ton of dates. We're talking multiple dates with new women every single week for months. And I was quickly figuring out my real preferences, what I actually liked, how to communicate even better, how to be more confident. It was super uncomfortable, like really uncomfortable. I had multiple breakdowns that I shared with my coach during this time, but I kept pushing. That period completely changed my life. During that time, I met my current girlfriend while I was dating others. And that actually gave me a lot of clarity because I realized this girl resonates so much more with me than anybody I've ever met. And because I had the clarity, the abundance of actually meeting multiple women, I knew that I was not just choosing her because I was desperate. I knew that this person was very special to me. Now we live together, and now I moved to a new city to live this new life with her, which is insane to think about. This one choice that I decided to make in 2023, that I was gonna delay gratification and just go all in on dating to potentially find my dream partner. It worked out. And you know what's crazy? When you start conquering goals in one area of your life, that success tends to spill out into other areas. I had also decided as a side project I wanted to finally make money with photography. So I pushed there too. And the first month of me actually trying to make money with photography, I made my first $500, all while working a full-time job and going on all these dates. Let me tell you, it was super exhausting, but it proved something very important to me. And I'm sadly seeing this a lot in my comments as well. Most people, they blame things outside themselves. They blame society, they blame capitalism, they blame the system. But I started realizing something very different, that you actually have way more influence over your life than you think, but you have to be willing to push through that initial discomfort. And then the next layer, and the next layer, and the next layer. I have paid multiple coaches throughout my life. And some people might look at me and be like, wow, you paid a coach to help you with dating? Yes, I did, because I needed help with my mindset. And this guy was miles ahead of me with his positive mindset, his ability to look at life. He was also a bit older than me, and he had done the things I wanted to do with dating. So I trusted him, and I paid him a lot of money to help me with this. And if I had not done that, I was probably not living with my girlfriend at this point in time, and I probably never moved to Copenhagen. So those decisions just helped me move much, much faster with more clarity, and helped me build the life I wanted for myself, despite that we are living in an ever-changing society in capitalism, and we have the system that can sometimes be difficult to us. I decided to just do what I could with what I actually can control. That's really key. And I will say now, even though I made a lot of mistakes, also with my girlfriend, there's a lot of things I had to learn. I feel really proud that I did all those things back then, because my younger self decided to choose discomfort for me to live this life. You know how much gratitude I actually feel now that I really let it land? It's crazy. I'm honestly so happy. And there's obviously things that I thought I could have done better, and I have also been filled with occasionally regret, because there's things where I thought I'd been wasting my time and been too comfortable. But I also know my younger self did the best he could in many ways. Another example was when I was studying abroad in Cardiff. When I first arrived there, I was honestly quite shy. Social situations, as I mentioned, didn't come natural to me, but back then I decided I wanted to be extremely social on this trip. And I want to do my best to talk to people, start conversations, go out to as many events as possible, and invite people out. And I managed to build a close friend group of 6 people. And I built a wider international network of around 50 people. That happened because I forced myself into discomfort daily. And that time, when I was in my early 20s, that was the first glimpse I got of the fact that we can do way more than we think. Our potential is so much higher than we actually give ourselves credit for. And it doesn't matter if you have ADHD or you think you come from a messed up childhood. Trust me, if you put in the work, if you really dedicate yourself to it, it is very much possible. And by the way, quick plug, if you want my help with this, I have just started up my coaching business where I help neurodivergent men go from knowing what they should do to actually following through on one meaningful goal. So if you'd like my help with that, feel free to send me a DM on either Instagram or Discord. The links will be in the description. Or if you'd just like to talk to me a bit about what you like on this channel and have a casual chat, you can also book a call. All the links will be in the description. But anyway, if I look back at my life, this pattern just keeps repeating. Because every meaningful improvement, it does require a level of discomfort. If you want to improve your fitness, you have to actually sign up for a gym and start looking at your diet and actually go consistently weekly. And especially in the beginning, people say that it takes 21 days to build a habit, some say 66. It takes a while, right? You can't just go once and now you fixed it. It takes effort day in and day out, week in and week out, and even yearly to keep it up. Same with dating, right? You might get lucky and you might meet your girlfriend at university, or you might just come across her randomly, be it the first Tinder date you go on. But if you're like me, and you might be a little picky, you will have to go through a lot of dates in order to find the one you really like. And you don't have to find the absolute perfect one. When I met my girlfriend, I noticed that there's a couple of things that I thought, this is not a 10 out of 10, but it's really good still. And again, if I kept searching for like the ultimate perfect partner, even though I realized that I'm not perfect and I'll never be perfect, that'll never happen. I can keep chasing that rabbit till I die. So my point here is, you will probably have to put in the numbers to actually meet somebody, and that requires some discomfort going on all these dates, going on the apps, improving your photos and improving your profile, and actually making progress with that. now I am in the process building a business. I just got my first client this week from Neosphere, one of my subscribers, which is super, super awesome. I'm really excited to work with this person. It's honestly been quite a time sink, putting all this time into also reaching out to my own personal warm network if they know somebody who this could be interesting for. Trying to validate my idea to figure out, is this actually something that genuinely is going to help people? And I don't know if you've noticed, I have not posted a video in 2.5 weeks at this point, which is the first time, or a long form video anyway. That's the first time this has ever happened since I started my Newsview channel. I've been consistent every single week until the month of March, where I think there's also another week where I skipped like half a week. So there's been like 10 days between uploads, I think. That's because I've been working so much on this business idea. As I said, this is my own North Star, my goal this year. And that's really what I care about making happen. Is I just want to make significant progress with that. And that means I have to sacrifice a couple things. I will never abandon Newsfear also because there's literally people that are interesting in what I have to offer on the channel. So it is good marketing for the business. And even people that will never buy my stuff. A lot of people comment on my videos they tell me what they like about the video, so that gives me a lot of stuff to work with for future content. And I got sick last Sunday, so I actually didn't want to record this video today, but I realized that I do want the result from my future self of putting out a video and potentially having some fruitful discussions in the comments, and just me being grateful that I have this platform, I have this small community where I can share stuff about my life that also benefits others. That was a big rant about my business recently, but an important point I want to make here is that there's always a period where you put in a lot of effort, but the results are invisible. I have put in 3 months of work into this business, and I just now landed my first paid client. So up until now, the results have technically been invisible. There's no money in my bank account that says that my business has been successful, but now there is a little proof that my idea is actually helping people for real, because somebody was willing to pay me for it. And this is really the danger zone, because if you go into the gym expecting quick results, which is what you see every single new year. If you go to the gym, you know January is hell in the gym because there's too many people. You have to wait for all the stuff. But then you realize in February, half of those people are gone because there's not visible progress just yet. That's the quitting zone. You have to get over the hurdle of initially putting in a lot of work without seeing the results. Like with my project. You work on a project for 2 months. If I'd quit there, I'd made no money. And with your social skills, you have to talk to a lot of people before you actually get the feedback from other people that, wow, I see that you've become a social butterfly. I've been told that. And I've literally been told that you have seemed to mature a lot. You seem much more calm, much more comfortable in social situations. And in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, because I literally spoke to 300 to 500 people in order to make this happen. Most men quit here. Or let me say most people, because apparently my channel is also starting to attract some female viewers. In the beginning, I think it was like 95% men, or maybe 97%. But my recent video has an influx of other genders. So I'm just gonna say most people, they quit here. But if you do manage to cross that gap, things will start to change, because eventually the results will appear. And once they do, you'll see that your motivation suddenly increases, because now that will feed into a positive feedback loop of you wanting to do more, to keep making progress. The habits become easier, and then you build momentum. The problem is that modern life is built for comfort, which makes this a lot harder. And again, I don't think we should take away the responsibility that we are still in control of a lot of things. But I do want to emphasize with you guys that struggle with all the friction. And I do to a certain extent as well. There's food delivery, there's endless entertainment, social media, adult content, video games. Everything is designed to give you instant gratification nowadays. And the internet and video games literally gives you simulations of real life reward. If you watch adult content, they'll stimulate intimacy, so you'll be less likely to chase it in real life. If you play games, you'll get achievements and all these pop-ups that will stimulate that you're just crushing it at life. And on social media, you'll have a simulation of connection with other people because you can get such a deep window into their life. But that actually causes disconnection because it's not real. You're not really connected with someone, and it's really It's really an illusion. If you want to build a strong body, if you want to build a career, relationships, confidence, all those, they require friction. And if I were to put it in a single sentence, it's that comfort is the silent killer of growth for your future self. With technology, it should make life easier, and it does in so many ways. But now people feel more lost than ever. I want to leave you with something that you can reflect over. Self-improvement is very simple. It is really just this. You endure discomfort long enough for the rewards to appear. If you can become the person who pushes through that uncomfortable phase, your future self will look back at you with gratitude and with pride.